talking about Renfield and what?
Evil Dead Rises?
Evil Dead. Is it Rising or Rises?
Evil Dead Rise.
You didn't even know the name of the movie that we're covering?
No, I did. It's just I misspoke.
I don't think that was a misspoke. I don't think you knew the name.
No, I did. It's the new Evil Dead. Evil Dead Rise.
And you saw this movie and you just watched it. You don't know the title of the movie. That says everything about you.
It's not about the title, man. It's about the movie itself.
I came prepared.
I did too.
I saw Renfield, and funnily enough, I know the title.
Yeah, it's one word.
It's easy to remember.
It's not like a sequel or a reboot or a remake.
Right.
You know?
So I think most people want to hear about Renfield, not just because I saw it, and nobody wants to hear from you.
Oh, I don't think that's true.
But I'm guessing that you wanted to see this movie.
Yeah, I wanted to check it out. I'm a Nick Cage fan.
There's been this like Nick Cage renaissance, and I'm sure it's called something out there, like the Cageissance or something.
Something funny.
But I have not been a part of it. Not because I didn't want to, because I love Nick Cage. He's such a badass actor. But I just haven't had the chance to see his resurgence into these, I wouldn't call them bad movies or schlocky movies, but they're definitely like campy movies for the most part, right?
Right. Yeah. These aren't the the heartfelt, emotional movies, right? There's some cheese.
That is such you say things the most condescending you can about actors.
No, that's not the.
If I was an actor, I would kick your ass, and I am an actor, so get over here.
I am an actor, and I'm saying
I am an actor,
and I'm saying it's like that's not a bad thing. It's just two different types of work. You have
What
fun,
I would-
or you have the I'm gonna pull out the my Oscar winning monologue in this performance, instead of like, hey, I'm a vampire.
but the way you just said it is like there's acting with emotion, and then there's acting that's just silly.
What I think it goes. It's not the acting; it's the tone of the movie. It's the subject matter of the movie, not so much the performance itself.
Okay, I will agree with that kind of. He used to do movies that were more dramatic, and now he does movies that are more, like I said, camp.
Cheese, campy cheese.
But when he did a couple of that you've seen though that are like Ride the Line though, like the one about his missing pig is not really campy, right? That's a serious movie.
Which one? The missing pig one?
It's called Pig.
No, I didn't watch that. I watched Willy's Wonderland. It came out the same year.
Willy's Wonderland. I don't even know the title.
So basically, he plays a janitor. He's a janitor at this like Chuck E. Cheese-esque type of place.
How did I miss this movie?
And it's an evil, demonic Chuck E. Cheese, and he literally has no lines in the movie. He just grunts sometimes. There's no lines, and he's just kicking ass.
And he's the star.
He's the main star. I mean, there's a couple of support, like some kids go to Willy's Wonderland to, see, what it's all about. Is it really haunted? And then all of a sudden it is. And then Nick Cage comes in and just kicks some, animatronic ass.
Wow. This was during COVID, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
2021. Okay, yeah. So I missed that one. I don't know.
It was fun. It was a fun movie. It was not the Oscar heartfelt speech, but it was definitely.
Will you stop saying it like that?
Fun.
Just, again, condescending as fuck. Will you just leave the man alone? He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, man, dude. I'm sure he got had a great time.
Anyway, I have not seen most of his resurgent movies. That's why it led me when he was going to play Count Dracula. I mean he got me in to not a theater, but I did watch Renfield this past week. The idea of Nicolas Cage taking on such a huge role, iconic role as Count Dracula, how could you stay away?
Right. Yeah. It's fine.
But you got to remember that the movie's called Renfield.
Right. And so it's how he gets his right-hand man.
No.
Right-hand person.
Not at all.
Okay.
So
I have no idea. I mean, I wanted to see this.
So you have to remember the movie's called Renfield because if you expect it to be about Dracula, you are going to be disappointed.
Okay,
That's
that
my
makes
point.
sense.
Screen time is going to go to Nicholas Hoult in this. And, I would say that Dracula probably is in a half the movie.
Okay.
If I'm being generous, but it's definitely not called Dracula. That's my point. It's kind of like a fun excuse for Nicolas Cage to go play Dracula.
All right, that sounds fun. That sounds interesting.
And it was kind of, it was very campy and like we talked about last week, very meta. There's a lot of meta jokes. A lot of the jokes came from Aquafina in her type of humor. She plays a cop that's investigating like the crime in New Orleans, crime syndicates, and she's after the people that keep killing everybody. And the whole B story of this movie kind of threw me off because I thought it was going to be about Renfield and Dracula, but it's kind of about Renfield who is trying to get away from Dracula because he thinks he's codependent in a codependent relationship with Count Dracula, and he goes to counseling. And
oh wow, so it is a really modern take on the whole story. Okay,
but Nicholas Holt's really great in this, and I think he's really great in everything. And he has comedic chops like you wouldn't believe because he plays it very straight. He doesn't go over the top with how his character eats bugs or just the character. Renfield basically is like, it could go so schlocky, like master, like that version.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do that. He's just seemingly like this normal kid who just happens to have lived hundreds of years with Count Dracula. And yet, so I think my favorite part actually was Nicholas Hoult because he didn't play it for laughs. He just played it like Nicholas Hoult in his typical accent. And any time the Brits play straight to where somebody's playing crazy, I just think that's like the funniest thing in the world.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like the Michael Caine in the Muppet Christmas Carol. It's exactly like that. That's what I was imagining when you were saying that.
Okay, if that's your take on it, I'll go along with that.
Serious acting.
The movie's written by, I think, one of the writers from Rick and Morty. So it definitely made sense when the more I researched this movie, the more that I realized what the tone of the movie was and was going for. I haven't seen anything by Chris McKay. Nope, nothing by him, who directed this. But the tone of the movie, like I said, very meta, but it also has a lot of action and what I'll say cool violence, if I can get away with that term.
All right. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It's really, really bloody.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Like Kill Bill bloody.
Oh, that type of bloody.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like ridiculous amounts of splurting blood everywhere. And for the most part, that's also what I liked about it. It seemed like they used a lot of practical effects for a while. Like they used prosthetics in the beginning, and they were doing real action sequences with real actors, and then slowly you had to up the ante, and then things got expensive, so they used more CG. But I will say it's one of those weird fascinations with movies that come along where you go, God, this is so violent, it's unnecessary, and you're kind of going, cool.
Yeah, right.
It's a weird feeling, but it really it is a really fun movie. And Nick Cage's Dracula is just what you think it's going to be. It's a little scary. It's a little scary and unhinged, and it's still very tongue-in-cheek, very campy, and very Nicolas Cage. Like he's just having the time of his life.
Okay, that's very cool. That's a great endorsement right there.
I can't say much about the story. I don't think that's the point, so I won't say much about it. Because I don't want to give everybody notes about their story about Renfield. I like the story. Like I said, to have a crime syndicate, the cops are all against this one cop in Aquafina, and then so are the mafia in New Orleans, and then one of the mafioso's son is like the main villain, and he's played by Ben Schwartz, and his mom is always looking out for him because he's like a fuck up and a moron. It's like. There's two movies here,
right?
And they eventually merge. But Aquafina has like a sister, and her father was a policeman, and then he died, in the line. And so it's like, what are we talking about? I thought that was called Renfield. Not only is it not about Dracula, it's not about Renfield at certain times. But having said that, it's despite the C plot line, it's a really fun movie. That's I think that is 100% the point. I think you would actually like watching this because it's kind of a movie for you, and even those meta jokes and the C storylines, I think you'll probably forget it as a fan of this genre. You'll probably be like, oh yeah, that wasn't the point of the movie. Thanks for the extra meal at dinner time.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, I'm excited to see it. I was kind of upset that I didn't see it as well because I really wanted to dive into it. But you did get me excited to it, and it's seems like it's a real fun. We're getting to that summer season, so it's hopeful to see that some of these movies are coming out in the milieu of all the Marvel big blockbuster stuff. Keep it fun.
I'm going to let you get away with that word because we got to move on. And you saw Evil Dead
Rise.
Good. That was a test.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to keep track with all the sequels and reboots these days. What exactly the title is, but
I'm not sure. Is there a reboot or a sequel to Evil Dead these days?
Didn't they redo one not too long ago? Like
it's your segment.
Yeah. I think it was in the 2000s, man. So it's been in the last. I think it was like 2013. Yeah, they remade it in 2013. But this one is different, That one was kind of a remake of them going to the cabin in the woods.
Oh, you saw that one?
Yeah, I think I did. But
again, your segment, you don't even think about this. Did I even see the original movies that I'm supposed to be covering for this week?
I did. I don't know. I don't remember enjoying it that much. Because you're trying to remake, a masterpiece, right, of the original.
Which one?
Original, Sam Raimi's Evil Dead, right? The original one, was just such a trailblazing feat in the horror genre. So this one, Evil Dead Rise, pays homage to that, but it's a different story, right? It's just the only kind of through line is, the Book of the Dead. Somebody else finds it, and so everything else is a brand new kind of story.
About what? Jesus
all right,
Christ.
Let's get into
it's like
it.
Pulling teeth here.
So this one is it's a twisted tale of two estranged sisters whose reunion is cut short by the rise of a flesh-possessing demons, thrusting them into a primal battle for survival as they face the most nightmarish version of family imaginable.
Is that what the Evil Dead spirits were about in the originals? Were they just about flesh eating?
Flesh possessing. So,
flesh possessing.
Right. So they would possess. They possessed everybody in the cabin, and in this one, it's one of the kids, played by Richard Crouchley, is they live in an apartment complex. There's this earthquake, and all of a sudden it opens up there was this like church vault room underneath the apartment building that they were living in, that they're about to get evicted from because they're tearing it down. And they find, he's a DJ. So he's like, oh, I found these records. Oh, there's a book that goes with it. And those are the records of the recordings of the incantations of the Book of the Dead. And that's what kind of sets the movie off into the course, right? It's about two sisters, Jessica and Beth. Beth is kind of, like she's a guitar tech for bands. So she's in town.
Who's a DJ? What? You lost me.
The kid's a DJ. So that's why he goes down there.
What kid?
So it's about a family, right? So there's a mom with 3 kids, and then her sister comes to visit because she's in town. So the kids are out getting pizza, and then an earthquake happens, and they find this secret room. And he's a DJ, so he's like, oh, let me try these vinyls and mix them up. But he doesn't know what he's getting himself into.
Oh, boy.
So I mean, after that part, after you get into the meat and potatoes of it, it's actually it's a really fun ride.
I really hate movies that just in the beginning you just go, just get me there, just get me into the story. I don't care what happens in the beginning, just get me there, get me to the demons.
You know what? I will say this one, because it was setting up the dynamics of the family and the relationship of the sisters and kind of what's going on in their own lives and why they haven't been communicating for a little while. It was nice. It didn't feel, contrived or anything like that. It was it was fine, but then the one thing he's like, oh, the kid's a DJ. That's why he's going to pick up the records, whatever.
Was it in the beginning?
Yeah. Well, you see him like, cause like the sisters going around the room and trying to say, hey, we're going to go pick up pizza. And he's like in his room, just like,
oh, you're specifically talking just about the beginning of the movie.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
And then he finds the book, puts the records on the turntable, and like in the original Evil Dead, they found the tape of the incantations, and that brings one of the demons to life and possesses one of the sisters.
And then we're off to the races.
We're off to the races in a full Evil Dead-esque type of journey.
Okay. And so how does this measure up to the other ones? Or is it not fair to measure, even though they're used? Yes, of course it's fair to measure because
Right.
they're using the name Evil Dead.
And I will say they lived up to those expectations in this movie. I was shocked at how much I enjoyed watching this. Because like, you know, it's after all this time and something, you know, something so pure as the original Evil Dead, you know.
Excuse me, I had to just
I know that sentence is a little weird, but
no, it's not, because I think the original Evil Dead is one of the best horror films of all time, and I am famously not a horror guy. So, you know, like that and Texas Chainsaw, I think is a masterpiece, and it is the best horror movie of all time. But having said that, I certainly haven't seen enough, you know, many horror films as you have. But if to be kind of call yourself a quote unquote expert on them, I think you still haven't seen enough to be an expert. You're just a fan.
A super fan.
But so I like to speak on the milieu, loser, of horror. I feel like I can't speak, you know, past my favorites and the best that I consider of all time, because I just haven't seen enough, you know.
But you have seen, like, you know, reboots and remakes of other types of genres and other types of movies. So
just not horror.
Just not horror. So, but with this movie, actually, I want you to watch this because I think that you would be impressed too. As being like a remake, as a reboot or whatever. I mean, it's not a remake because it's not retelling the same story, right? It's just the Book of the Dead and there's demons, right?
Yeah, but is it gross?
Yeah, there is. I mean, it is.
Hey, come on, man.
It is, you know, Evil
I'm
Dead
not
movie.
into, but that's the thing. Like the first Evil Dead, I don't consider that gross. I consider that scary. The second one, Evil Dead 2.
That was gross out. But that was
not gross out. It's funny. So it's
Right.
not scary. You know, if this is like the Saw movies or like, what's the Eli Roth movies?
Oh, the
Hostel.
Yeah.
If it's like that, then I have a tough time watching because it's realistically gross, and I have a really weak stomach. You know, judge me all you want, but if I've eaten that day or I'm planning to eat that day and I watch a movie like this and it's grossing me out, I'm not going to eat that day.
Yeah. Don't eat lunch while you're watching it. I will say that.
Oh, no shit.
But
I'm not big spaghetti meatballs.
I'm still like kind of in awe of how good this movie
Why?
is.
Okay, why?
Well, you know, first off, I mean, taking it from familiar territory and making it unfamiliar and not relying on.
Did you read some kind of like IndieWire review of this or something?
I promise, man. This is just
taking
this
it
is all me.
from in.
This is all me, man. This
New
is from the
territory from the old territory. You sound like you should be on a ledge somewhere.
I'm trying to do my Criterion version.
Jump.
Of just do it. Of the Evil Dead Rise movie.
Oh, is that what you do? Okay, so you're trying to sound like a pompous
Criterion.
asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good. That's my job, by the way.
Well, let me wear the hat for a little bit.
All right, so it defied expectations. It broke new ground. It took familiar territory and went into uncharted new familiar territory.
Right, you know, and like it's just like subtle little things like to call back to the original. Like it's not like as in your face as like Bruce Campbell, you know, the chainsaw scene, or in the second one where
You can't even call him Ash. Like you're not even that big a
Ash.
fan.
Bruce Campbell himself is a presence. You know, he's bigger than just Ash. You know, even
I think
though
that's his chin.
but you know, like in the second one where he's like, all right, now I got the chainsaw as a hand. But you know, like she does use a chainsaw in one of the things. And so there's like little things like that kind of just tease at the original, but it's not like overt, like, look at me, I'm using a chainsaw. Like
Okay,
the first
wait,
one.
back up. So, all right, so it takes it into new territory. You really liked that. You were surprised that it did it so well. But what's the movie about? So it's about these two sisters that are on the run from this weird presence, or where is this?
Yeah, so so here's where it overlays with the original. Instead of a cabin, it's an apartment complex.
It takes place all in the apartment?
It takes place all in the apartment complex.
Oh, okay. So then why don't they just leave the complex?
Because the gate's locked.
The gate's locked.
The demons knocked out the power, so the elevators aren't working.
There's
That's the
no
whole
stairs.
thing. Yeah, I mean there is stairs, but if you get down, you need something. There's other tenants in the building that are trying to help. But
So it's like Mousetrap?
Yeah, but it's like, it's like a bigger version of that. So that's why they're trying to get out, right? But then also the demon, one of the sisters becomes possessed and is keeping them locked in their apartment. So they're trying to get out of the apartment, get down to the basement, get to the car, and get the hell out of there.
Okay, so here's a question that I always love to I love my favorite screening of anything with you was the day we went to see The Conjuring, and I just talked the whole movie about all the plot holes and everything that like I was just the most annoying.
Yes, I remember.
I was the most
hate you for
annoying
it still.
person in the world for you because I couldn't. I just saw everything, and I loved the movie. By the way, I really liked The Conjuring. I just love to do that to you, where I just poke holes in every silly thing that horror movies do, the silly tropes and everything, and that's why I'm going to do. I'm going to do this with you now. No, I can't because I haven't seen the movie.
Right.
But a good test of this franchise and this movie in particular, I have to ask, could you what would happen if one of the main characters just chose not to believe this, that chose not to believe that this was happening? The demon is staring at them in the face and they just put down their sword and walked right by, said basically like Jordan Peele, nope.
Yeah, then
Would they do anything, or would they be like, what is going on, or would they kill them?
the demon would go over and rip their face off, like you're walking away, rip their scalp, and then just throw it away. You can't, when you're talking about,
I haven't seen it, so I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, because these are killer. I mean, the one ghost says, "I wanna gut you all and crawl inside your stomach, so that way we can be a happy family again."
And I would just say no.
And then they would be like, and you're dead.
But nobody's ever tried it before, is my point.
You know what?
So
let's get into that situation. I'll run, you do that, and then we'll see what happens.
But it's like a dog. If you run, then the thing's gonna win because it knows you're scared of it.
I'm gonna poke holes in this logic because
if Leatherface walked up to me, I couldn't pull this off. That's my point. I couldn't do it with Jack and the Shining. There's with Jaws, you can't talk to a shark. But
not yet.
I'm telling you, if the thing is screaming at me in Evil Dead, from the basement and going like, ha, 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 I'm going to kill you, and be like, well, I'm just going to leave.
Yeah, but then you unlock the door, you see their arm come out and start grabbing you. What are you going to do then?
Act like I'm ticklish.
You know what? Actually, let's make this movie. I think this would be a hilarious.
I'd last all of 5 seconds.
But no. I mean, I get it. There's holes in it, but that's a huge.
No, okay, that's not holes. That's just a what if. So it passed the test. These are really Evil Deads.
Yes. But no, I really want you to watch this. I was. With horror movies, I'm always hesitant to endorse them to you because I know sometimes.
I don't have something against horror films. I'm telling you, I have to go through the best ones or the ones I have to see or should have seen. And until that list is complete, I can't start with something like Evil Dead Rise or anything new, especially because I have no basis for comparison to what is excellent out there or what the genre really is. I mean, I'm trying to make my way through documentaries about horror, and certain friends influence me because they really like horror. But my knowledge only really goes past the best of the best, and so I'm trying to go one tier down.
Yeah,
and that doesn't involve reboots or remakes right now.
I got you. That makes sense. But I want to watch this together with you. This will be fun.
I'm not watching this with you.
Yeah, we are.
You've already seen it.
I'll watch it again. I really want to watch it again. Pick up on the little nuances.
Okay, so it's all set in an apartment building. They can't get out, so they're stuck in there with this Evil Dead presence. And what's so great about that?
It's terrifying. Your sister's possessed, and now she's trying to kill you. And it's like that crazy, so it's demonic. So she's walking around, her bones are breaking into different shapes. And then other people start getting possessed too because
why would you watch this movie?
Because
I can't imagine why do people go? Yes, but why? Why do you want to see something like that? It's like that scene in the remake of the Argento film, Suspiria, where the dancer starts breaking all of her bones and then she pees all over the floor. And I remember seeing that with an audience and going, I paid to go see this, and I'm sitting here like this is entertainment. And I like that movie, but that one scene, I remember distinctly thinking, I paid money to see a person break their bones in contortion, and piss all over the floor.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
what am I saying to that? I can't say shit. But like, I think that I can go one of two ways. I can put my beret on and say, "Hey."
No, I want to hear Andrew Pescia talk.
Oh, okay. I mean,
I was going to say the moron, but that's harsh. Not the moron talk. I want to hear the unfiltered, real horror fan in you. Like you were talking to one of your boys.
yeah. So,
And I'm not one of those people, by the way. I've never been one of his boys.
all right.
He says bitch a lot.
No, I do not. I am a upstanding citizen. The reason I've said this before on the podcast. The reason why I love horror, it's kind of like it's being scared in a safe space. It's finding out, like, putting yourself in these situations. Like, what the fuck would you do if this happened to you, right? And it's like,
I wouldn't believe it because it's not real, and that's why I'd be like, oh, this isn't real,
and that's why you'd be dead in 30 seconds, man.
No, I wouldn't, because reality is that this shit's not going to happen because it's not real.
But it's just like
ghosts and demons and all that shit. They're not real.
You're telling
like
me
fortune tellers.
You're telling me late at night when you're alone at the house, you never run up the stairs because you felt something?
I'm not going to tell you that.
And the answer is yes. Thank you.
No, but that's different.
It's that like feeling, but it's that feeling, but it's like watching it, right? Because it's like one of the craziest emotions is fear and scare.
But why do you want to stay in that for an hour and a half? You know why you run upstairs when you feel your spine tingle? Because you're scared and you don't want to stick around to see what happens.
Exactly. But now you can because you're watching it and you're in a safe space. It's just,
so you're doing it from behind. So you hear what you're saying?
Wait, it's like hot sauce. Like people who like hot sauce are somewhat like pain.
That's a flavor.
Yeah, but there's receptors in your brain, right? Let's get meta.
So you're kind of like a junkie for adrenaline, or you're a fear junkie.
Yeah, adrenaline junkie. That's why I like roller coasters and things.
There's
that.
like yoga and therapy, and like sugary drinks.
I do all three of those things. So not the yoga. I just stretch.
Yeah, I was gonna say I
stretch for the beer.
Yoga.
But it's just fun to be
downward dog. Oh yeah.
It's fun to be scared in a safe environment without actually having to be really fearful in the fight or flight or the like. Oh,
so you're just too damn scared to go and try it yourself. Our friend filmmaker Jager Moore, he works on that show Ghost Hunters, and he puts himself in the situation because he's man enough to take it. You're saying you have to watch from your buttery couch.
I mean, I go to haunted houses and things like that and get scared and all that. But
I'm just kidding. I understand. I totally understand. I just wanted to hear what you would say about why you like horror films. And actually, it's like going on a roller coaster, I guess. I do it. I haven't done it in a long time, but I've been skydiving, and you do it because you know it's going to scare the shit out of you. But the adrenaline of being scared, if you could bottle that in like a gland and then, kind of like squeeze it. And I bet if if you put that as an additive in a drink, it would be intoxicating.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. 100.
And I'm sure that if the adrenal glands, if you take them out and somebody ate one, you probably get something out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet you would.
Which is a horror movie, probably.
Yeah. There you go.
Maybe that's what like Laird Hamilton does before he does the big waves. He just eats adrenaline glands.
I wouldn't be surprised, man. Some crazy shit out there.
Well, okay, so this movie scared the shit out of you. I'm glad it did. It unnerved you, but you said, familiar ground into new territory.
Because it's like, hey, I'm trapped in one location. The Book of the Dead's there. There's demons, so it's like, all right, cool.
So it sounds like an homage more than anything.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it would be difficult to take the Evil Dead mythology and kind of add to it beyond that there is this book and then there's these demons.
Right. Yeah. You're summoning, hell.
Which you said the one from 2013 you've seen. So was that more like just a remake?
That was a straight like remake. I mean, they added a couple little, different plot points in it, but they go to the cabin in the woods, find the book, and then they're trapped there and trying to.
Well, I would say go see Lee Cronin's other films then, the guy that wrote and directed this, because if you like this, it seems that you would like his other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he did The Hole in the Ground that I'm seeing. I don't even remember that movie from 2019, but, the poster's creepy and...
yeah, it does look creepy.
So...
check out his stuff. I mean, I was just, great job, Lee. Fucking,
I'm sure he really appreciates it.
you know what? You should. My endorsement means a lot. I mean, I'm just coming off fresh of watching it last night. I did, like, normally horror movies, if I watch them late at night, don't bother me. But, like, I had some fucked up nightmares last night. I will say, I was like, dude, it actually got to me a little bit. And, you know, I was like, usually that doesn't happen. So maybe the spells are real, huh?
I will admit that when the TV spots came on, that I not that I wanted to see it, but I can identify just the feeling of, oh, that looks interesting and not like a normal reboot, remake, or just even a normal horror film that comes out. Because for whatever reason, maybe just because of low budget, horror is it's like the most movies are made with the genre of horror, it seems like.
Yeah.
You know, and throughout the years too, especially since like the 80s slasher movies, the one thing everybody always tells us as indie filmmakers too is, why don't you guys ever make a horror film? Because it costs you nothing, you do in your backyard.
Right.
And, you know, that's always the reason why I didn't want to do one, because there isn't the challenge would be to make it not that.
Yeah. It's making it a great, a really compelling story.
Yeah, like I don't want to just do the movie that looks like shit and everybody laughs at and, you know, goes, oh, it's just a dumb, you know, horror movie. No, that's not for me, even though I like those movies and I especially like the 80s slasher flicks. But, you know, my challenge would be if Evil Dead rose up to the challenge. And
God,
that was shameless. If I could rise up to the challenge and make something that was genuinely scary without all the head scratching and all of the holes poking through the plot, which I think is the reason I agreed to write a script with you that is a horror script, but it's definitely not going to be a horror script that I'm going to be ashamed of in any way.
It's like Buñuel meets Eli Roth.
Or somebody named Buñuel. But yeah, I think there has to be a certain level of integrity brought to the horror genre, and just saying that out of my mouth, you know, it's like, oh,
fuck you.
Everybody at the Q&A just left. They threw shit at me, and it was probably you first. You're like, get the fuck out of here!
Knock over your microphone and walk off
Did you just say
stage.
Integrity and horror? But
you know
but
what?
fuck you back. I actually do think that horror has integrity, and I think there are certain horror movies that have more integrity than others, and it's genuinely a genre that has art in it, and it also is a genre that has terrible exploitation and meandering plot lines and all the cliches, but that's also why people like it. So maybe the meeting of the minds is with your stupidity.
Okay. All right. You mean my integrity?
That's fine. With your integrity, meaning my integrity with this genre, then maybe that is some kind of magic there. Kind of like
goddamn right it is.
Kind of like, well, not like this at all because it's you, but kind of like when Stephen King and Kubrick, you know, they didn't come together because he famously hated it. But
yeah,
I love The Shining because I love The Shining book and I love the movie. And I'm always the dissenter that says I like the movie more because it's one of the masters of cinema who edited down if I'm going to be honest, an overly long book into what the movie should have looked like and not the made-for-TV movie, which I also have seen starring Steven Weber. Yeah. That was the one where you went, oh, no, Kubrick made this way better because he reimagined it as a movie. It didn't need... That's when books are just the book on screen. That is so boring, isn't it?
It is. You want to see it elevated off the page, not just a word for word recount.
And that's what Kubrick did. It was amazing. It really was amazing. And so maybe I'm giving you a lot of credit here. You're definitely not Stephen King.
Thank you. I am Kubrick.
Stephen Jester.
Yes.
But
Yes, I am.
There's a better joke there, but yeah, I don't know. So bringing myself down to your level seems like a challenge.
What do you mean? I'm the one bringing myself down to, like, we could just
up.
Hey,
I think up.
Yeah, whatever. No, I'm excited to do it. I think it's a great opportunity to bring some integrity to the genre.
Today's episode of the Four Seasons of Film podcast is brought to you by Phil's Coffee. Phil's specializes in handcrafted coffee made one cup at a time. Visit a location today or find them on the web at philscoffee.com. That's Phil's with a Z, coffee.com. Find the beans you're looking for.
Anything else you've seen this week? That was a pretty long segment on a movie that I haven't seen, but you know what? Your surprising endorsement of it may lead me to watch it someday. Definitely gonna have to be late at night, and it's definitely going to have to be with like all the lights off. You know, like really, if you're gonna do a horror movie, or if I'm gonna do a horror movie, then I'm gonna make it scare me.
There you go. Well, I agree. You gotta have the right environment.
What else did you see this week, Andy?
So first time watches. I'll just throw them out there and you tell me which one you wanted to talk about. Sunset Boulevard, Legends of the Fall, and Blood Diamond.
Oh, I'm dying here. Maybe all of those, but we don't have time. Let's see. First time watches. Yeah, you don't want to hear about anything I watched for the first time this week. That's for damn sure.
Okay. All right.
I mean,
well, no, we watched Blood Diamond together for the first time.
I mean, I watched Mildred Pierce from 1945 this week, and it just lived up to every bit of what I thought it was going to be. 1945, directed by Michael Curtiz, starring Joan Crawford. She won the Oscar for it. Actually, that will be my recommendation for you for this week, even though you're never going to watch this movie.
I will put that way down on the... I'm just kidding. I will
You're
put
not.
it on the list.
You're
I
not.
will. One of these days, I'm going to surprise you. You know what? I watched Mildred.
It's such a great movie because in this weird way, it's not lit like a film noir, but it feels like a total film noir. There's so much underbelly and in this weird family drama, the seediness about it. I mean, it starts out with a murder, so right away, I bet people do consider this a film noir. But it doesn't play like one until you really look closely.
Okay.
But I think the reason you'd really like it is because for a movie from 1945, you know, this is all speaking in your brain, by the way.
All right, I would love to hear this.
A black and white movie from 1945. But no, it keeps you guessing the whole time, and in that great way when characters act like assholes, you want to yell at the screen.
Yeah, like a horror movie.
Okay, if that helps.
Yeah.
Mildred Pierce is definitely not a horror film, but in that great classic Hollywood way, the subject matter for 1945 will leave you going, I can't believe they got away with this.
Okay.
Yeah, and so like I said, there's things about it that you are really going to like. Like it starts with a murder and you don't know who did it.
Okay.
And it's
I love whodunits.
Yeah, and Joan Crawford has never been better in this. I see why she won the Oscar, and her kid is a total asshole in this, and you hate her the whole time, and that's why the movie plays the way it does. My recommendation, Mildred Pierce.
All right. I will check that out sometime in the near future.
What are the movies you saw again?
Legends of the Fall, Blood Diamond. It was the second time I watched it, The Man Who Wasn't There.
The only thing everybody wants to ask us about if we're mentioning Blood Diamond is Leo's accent.
Oh my God.
All anybody wants to talk about. And I'm going to say, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be because...
Really? I thought it was way worse than it was.
No. It was just the trailer for it at the time. I couldn't see the movie because in the trailer, I was like, I can't. Get the fuck out of here with that accent. That's not gonna work. But in the movie, you get used to it, despite the fact that he keeps saying what after every sentence, Andy?
Huh?
Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah, pretty much. And it sounds like we're being assholes here because you're like, what do you mean he says but watch the movie. Watch the movie because he does this weird tick where he says, huh? After pretty much every sentence that he says. And after a while, it's just a drinking game.
Yeah. I mean, you'll be drunk in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah. And I know it's a choice. And I know he goes there for his accents and he probably got a lot of shit for it. And you know what? Whatever. He went for it, but I couldn't get past that part of it. Other than that, I really liked the movie.
Yeah, I could compartmentalize the accent. I couldn't get over it. It never left my mind, but I could separate it. And I was, yeah.
But did you notice it until I pointed it out, though?
Yeah. Because, well, I mean, at first it was like, what accent is that? I mean, then it's like the nuances of it. And you know, like I say, acting's all about choices and bold choice.
I mean, for a
Bold
serious
choice.
movie, I was laughing out loud every time he did it after 30 minutes. I mean, I couldn't stop. We were doing it all in the room, and then we were doing it the next day, and we were doing it all week. It just affects you that much, huh?
Yeah. I mean, well, that's like comedy, right? Whether it's a laugh or a groan or it caused emotion.
And
so
it's
it did its
certainly
job.
to be like, if you don't get that kind of comedy that we're laughing at, that he says it every time. Like, I'm sure Leo would not find that funny at all that we're laughing at it.
No.
But that's just who we are. I'm sorry. We suck.
I think we can explain if we had a little time to explain. Like, this is why we think it's funny.
Yeah. Blood Diamond.
Blood Diamond, great.
And
great.
what were the other two?
Legends of the Fall, and then Sunset Boulevard.
I don't want you to ruin Sunset Boulevard, so I'll ask you about.
It lives up. I feel bad. I will apologize for not ever watching that movie up until last week. Wow, I was blown away, and that was a 1950 movie.
You have a computer right in front of you.
Oh, well, I can't type that fast while I'm talking.
1950. You got it.
Boom. There. See, look, I learned something.
You memorized something?
And yeah, wow. So Mildred Pierce, 45. We're only going 5 years back, so maybe in my wheelhouse now.
5 years forward.
Well, 50 to 45.
But you're talking about Sunset Boulevard. Never mind. Oh my God. Sunset Boulevard lived up to its hype. I'm glad I got the Andrew Pesce seal.
Wait,
And
you were like, oh, let's turn this, and I was like, no, you leave it right there.
well, I wanted to watch it, of course, but you know, when I'm seeing the bored man that I know won't want to watch this right now on a Saturday night sitting next to me, I'm thinking, well, actually sitting far away from me in his own chair. I'm thinking, yeah, I don't want to ruin this movie when you fall asleep.
Yeah, okay. Well,
And you didn't fall asleep.
joke's on you, because I was in it.
You didn't fall asleep, but I will ask you what you thought about William Holden, Gloria Swanson, the plot, the performances, and Billy Wilder, the director.
So let's start from the top. Billy Wilder, great job. William Holden, you know, trying to straddle that line of advancing his career and trying to pull one fast over on fuck, what was her name again?
See, this is why I didn't want to talk about this with you. Gloria Swanson,
Gloria
or Norma
Swanson.
Desmond, her character.
Yeah, Nora Desmond, her character.
Norma Desmond.
Okay, Norma Desmond. I did watch the movie, but yeah, just to see that, and then all of a sudden that twist in her becoming possessive, and you know, it's just like, wow, okay.
There's people out there going, Nathan, why are you being such a dick to him? I haven't seen Sunset Boulevard either, and I'm going, well, I have seen it, and I love it, and this is the problem. I love movies so much, especially movies that are just monumental in the history of Hollywood. So letting you watch this movie with me was a big risk.
Letting you watch. Get the fuck out of here.
Was a big risk because, number one, I thought you were going to fall asleep. Number two,
Wrong.
I was just waiting for you to go, it was good.
Okay, well, you're wrong. Number two. See, that's called growth. That is called becoming an auteur, like a Kubrick, like you said.
Artor. Again, just pronunciation on these wonderful words.
Yeah, well, I was just trying to make it a little southern, like.
Nancy Olsen, who plays the love interest in this, Betty Schaefer, she's still alive.
Wow.
And I would love to see if we could contact her. And I think she would be about 100. No, she's born in 28, so she's 5 years or so shy of 100, which would be 95.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fascinating to me. There's people out there, they're still alive and they still have stories to tell. So it'd be fun to see if we could get her on the podcast or contact her just to sit down and ask her some questions about what was it like to work in Hollywood back then and work with Billy Wilder. And that's where my brain goes.
Yeah.
You're going.
What's next? What movie are we watching next?
All right, Legends of the Fall, very, very quickly.
Yeah, I can see after watching the movie, I can see why everyone talked about Brad Pitt in this movie and how they loved his character of Tristan for a multitude of reasons.
So you fell in love with him also.
Oh, I did. Head over heels.
Tristan.
Like I wish I could see his long loving locks just flow in the wind on a horse to come save me. Didn't feel the same way, I guess.
Brad Pitt in 1994, especially in Legends of the Fall, I mean, it was the thing. Men and women both fell in love with him in this performance. And it solidified him as a genuine movie star. You couldn't get away from this performance. And everyone I knew talked about Brad Pitt as a household name after this. You would only just see this movie now.
Yeah.
So it's, 30 years later?
Yeah, I think the earliest Brad Pitt film I've seen before this one wasn't Be Cool came out before this? The animated one. That's how I know Brad Pitt.
Cool World?
Cool World.
You're talking about Cool World?
Cool World. Yeah.
Be Cool with The Rock? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I forget. I mean,
anyway, but yeah, the Brad Pitt-essence happened after this, and he became who we all know him as today. But that's the first thing you start with. But then there's the movie,
right?
And what did you think about the movie?
It's just the kind of, the love triangle.
It's just an epic movie. It's like in scale, it's just huge. It's a huge movie inside of my mind when I think about it, because it's just the landscapes are so sweeping. And then the parts in Germany, and then it's such a, for some reason, it affected me so much in '94 when I was a kid that it's like a David Lean movie or something, Bridge Over the River Kwai or something, which it's not when you watch it again. It's not on that scale, like Lawrence of Arabia or something.
Yeah.
But it is in scope, not in scale.
Right.
If that makes sense.
No, it is. It is. I think for me, what really blew me, besides the cinematography and the landscaping, was the acting. Sir Tony Hopkins, holy shit. He's a force no matter what, but goddamn, I really loved him in this movie. I was just enthralled with him being the Papa, and Aidan Quinn and Julia Ormond, Julia Ormond, amazing. Took the wind out of my sails for my point. But I think it's just I think it could be a masterclass on acting.
Well, it is, and everybody in it is perfect. The movie did get a lot of flack for being cheesy and over the top, and kind of just like a steamy romance novel.
Right.
Kind of.
I can see that.
I actually wished it was longer, and I wish that it was kind of like, if they did it today, it'd be a miniseries with the same actors looking the same way they did. But that's just not going to happen. So I'm glad we got it when we did. And Edward Zwick, who directed it, he, I don't know. I just went back and saw a bunch of movies that he's directed, and he is, I'm going to call him kind of like a modern day David Lean kind of character, because, he did The Last Samurai, which is a very divisive movie, but also huge in scale and scope. You didn't realize this when we were talking about it, but Blood Diamond, also the same director.
I didn't realize that till before the show.
And based on those two movies and Legends of the Fall, I think if he would have had the money to do big, huge movies like this the rest of his life, then we would have gotten into David Lean territory. But just from those few movies, I think he could have had the keys to the kingdom in a lot of ways when it came to new epic directors.
Yeah, I'm blown away.
By Legends of the Fall?
Yeah, I am. I was
welcome. It's only been 30 years, Andy. People are talking about Legends of the Fall now.
Hey, better late than never, I guess. It's just like, hey.
I don't think
I get it. I completely get it now. And all those things I've heard over the years about this movie, they all clicked.
Well, it's a classic movie now, and it's sad because it's only 1994. But I don't think you realize the power of this movie when it came out. It was just a massive movie that everybody always remembers, and few people talk about now. But if you mention it to people, they go, "Oh yeah, I remember Legends of the Fall."
Yeah,
because every dude wanted to be Tristan, and every woman wanted to be with Tristan.
That's right. I totally get it now. I totally get it.
Well, I'm glad you saw it, Andy. Let's wrap this up and talk about movies another day, another episode. Thank you for joining me as always. Yeah. I feel like I got shortchanged on my Renfield review.
Because you know why? Because I'm Kubrick. As per your words.
No, you missed the analogy. I'm Kubrick and you, or Steven Joker, or Steven Prince.
I heard what I heard, man. I heard what I heard. No, but it's fun. No, I think it's because, the caliber that I was not expecting Evil Dead to be.
It's
Yeah,
just
Evil
over.
Dead Rise.
You couldn't keep it in the basement.
I couldn't keep. Nice. Yes.
All right. Well, keep film alive. I'll see you next week, hopefully.